Elmwood High School was located in a small, secluded town where everyone knew each other. On sunny days, the schoolyard was always loud with the laughter and chatter of students. But today, the playground was eerily quiet, the atmosphere heavy, as if a dark wind had swept through. Amy, a 10th grade student, was usually cheerful and social, always hanging out with friends. But today, she felt something was wrong. She stood staring at the clock, counting down the seconds until the bell rang, signaling the end of the break. Normally, teachers were rarely present in the yard during break, allowing the students to enjoy their free time. But today, Amy felt tension in the air, as if someone was watching her. When the bell rang, most of the students scattered back into their classrooms, but one student, Mark, didn't return. Mark was a quiet transfer student who had moved to Elmwood from a large city a few months ago. He didn't speak much, kept to himself, and avoided interacting with others. No one thought he would be the subject of a mysterious disappearance. Amy couldn't shake the uneasy feeling. She found her friends in the hallway, but couldn't concentrate. "Something's wrong," she said, her eyes scanning the window to the schoolyard. Suddenly, her gaze stopped when she saw a strange figure standing near the school gates. She didn't recognize the person, and what was even stranger was that they weren't moving. They just stood there, staring toward the main building. "Who is that?" Amy asked, her voice trembling. Her friends looked in the direction she was pointing, but saw nothing. "There's nobody there," one of them replied. "It's probably just someone passing by." But Amy couldn't shake the strange feeling. She decided to search for Mark. But when she got to his classroom, all the students were already seated, and Mark was nowhere to be found. A cold shiver ran down her spine. She rushed to the principal's office to report the situation. But to her surprise, when she inquired, no one knew anything about Mark's disappearance. They said he left the school right after break, without any further incidents. "That's strange," Amy whispered. Her anxiety only grew. Mark's disappearance didn't seem like an accident or an ordinary event. It felt like part of a darker story, something mysterious, waiting for them ahead. After Mark's mysterious disappearance, the atmosphere at Elmwood High grew even tenser. Rumors began to spread quickly, but no one could provide a reasonable explanation for his disappearance. Amy couldn't stop thinking about what had happened. She still felt like something was lingering around her. A week after the incident, on a rainy afternoon, Amy decided to return to the school to search for more clues. She couldn't bear the sense of fear and curiosity anymore. As she approached the hallway where Mark had disappeared, something caught her attention. Suddenly, a dim, glowing light appeared at the end of the hallway. This light was unlike the usual electric lights. It flickered like something supernatural, pulsing faintly. Amy stepped closer, her heart pounding in her chest. The light grew brighter and brighter. She felt as if some force was pulling her toward it. But just as she got closer, the light suddenly went out, leaving the hallway in complete darkness. A chilling sensation overtook her, causing Amy to shiver. Amy turned and ran out of the hallway, her heart pounding in her chest. She couldn't understand what the light was or why it had appeared at that exact moment. But what scared her more was the feeling that something was watching her from behind. Back home, Amy couldn't sleep. Thoughts of the strange light kept swirling in her mind. She decided she had to uncover the truth about what happened to Mark. But would she be able to handle what she was about to discover? The next day, Amy decided to meet Mark's old friend, a boy named Tom, to ask him about what happened. Tom was one of the few friends Mark had at the school, though they didn't communicate much. But Tom might be the only one who knew things Amy couldn't understand. "Tom, do you know what happened to Mark?" Amy asked, her voice filled with worry. Tom looked at her hesitantly. "Mark told me some strange things about this school. About something he saw. About—" "What did he say?" Amy asked, trying to control her emotions. Tom took a deep breath and recounted. Mark said he saw a ghost in the school, and it always appeared after break time. He said there was something very strange under this school. Tom's words sent a chill down Amy's spine. A ghost. That sounded like a horror story. But Amy couldn't dismiss the feeling that something was really happening. She decided she had to investigate further. "Thanks, Tom," Amy said, standing up. "I'll find out more about this. I have to know the truth." That night, Amy decided to return to the school late, when no one else was around. She couldn't stop thinking about what Tom had said. A ghost. Something strange under the school. Amy had heard mysterious stories about Elmwood, but she never believed in them until this event occurred. She found an old door, hidden in a corner of the school that she had never noticed before. It was a rusty metal door, worn out and seemed unused for years. The feeling of curiosity outweighed her fear, and Amy decided to open the door and step inside. After stepping inside, Amy found herself in a long, dim, and gloomy hallway. There were no lights, only a few faint rays of light filtering through dusty windows. This hallway seemed to have been forgotten for years, and an eerie silence enveloped it. Amy began walking down the hallway, her feet feeling heavy, as if an invisible force was pulling her forward. Suddenly, Amy stopped when she heard a strange noise, a soft sound, as if someone was moving in the darkness. She turned around, but only saw the thick darkness. A cold sensation spread through the space, and Amy could feel that she wasn't alone in this hallway. The feeling of fear made Amy want to turn back immediately, but when she looked towards the end of the hallway, a faint light appeared again, similar to the strange light from before. This time, it was a little brighter, and Amy felt an odd pull, making it impossible for her to leave. Amy continued walking towards the light, each step feeling like it was stretched out forever. As she approached, she saw another door, one that looked different from the usual doors in the school. It had an ancient design, and it seemed like it hadn't been opened for years. The feeling of confusion made Amy nervous, but she decided to open the door. When the door opened, a vast, unfamiliar space appeared before Amy. This wasn't a normal room in the school, but rather like an ancient tomb, with damp walls covered in moss and dust. Strange symbols were etched into the walls, ones Amy had never seen before. Amy began searching, trying to read the symbols, but they seemed incomprehensible. She ventured further inside, and the space grew more oppressive, as if something was holding her back. She felt like she was delving into a part of the school that no one else knew about. Suddenly, she heard a breath, a soft sound, but it sounded like someone was moaning. Amy turned around, but saw no one. The breath continued, getting closer each time. She could feel a presence behind her. The feeling of fear spread through her body, and Amy turned and fled from the room. She couldn't understand what had happened, but she felt that she had uncovered a secret that no one wanted to know. She ran out of the school, determined to uncover the truth. After the terrifying night, Amy couldn't stop thinking about what she had witnessed. She felt like she had uncovered a dark secret of Elmwood High. She knew she couldn't stop here, but at the same time, an overwhelming sense of fear engulfed her. The images of the strange symbols and the suffocating atmosphere of that room haunted her. The next morning, Amy arrived at school earlier than usual. She couldn't wait any longer and was determined to uncover the truth about what had happened to Mark. She went to the library, where she knew she would find related materials. The school library had an area with old documents, ancient books that most students never paid attention to. She found an old notebook in a deep drawer. Inside, there were strange notes, excerpts of texts from unclear sources. But one thing made Amy freeze. There was Mark's name. In this notebook, there was a record of a mysterious disappearance that had occurred in the school 30 years ago. Amy began reading the notes in the notebook, and she realized that this wasn't the first time someone had disappeared at Elmwood. The story from 30 years ago had many similarities to what had happened to Mark. A student named Thomas also went missing after break, and witnesses claimed they had seen a strange light on the school grounds as well. The feeling of fear returned to Amy. The strange events didn't stop at Mark. She felt like she was falling into a spiraling vortex with no escape, and perhaps the truth she was searching for would lead her into a world she couldn't even imagine. Amy decided to face the truth. She returned to the school that night, after everyone had left. She brought the notebook and a flashlight, determined to uncover the rest of the story. But when she reached the hallway, where Mark and Thomas had disappeared, everything was still and silent. She walked into the hallway, the flashlight's beam casting light on the cold tile floor. Suddenly, she felt a cold breeze sweep through, extinguishing the flashlight. In the darkness, Amy heard soft footsteps, as if someone was following her. Amy hurriedly turned the flashlight back on, but when the light flashed, she saw a figure standing at the end of the hallway. The figure wasn't moving, just standing still like a statue. The flashlight's beam illuminated the person's face, and Amy realized it was someone she didn't recognize. Suddenly, the figure began moving toward Amy, but each step grew heavier, as if the person wasn't human. A cold, icy breeze surrounded her, and Amy felt like she was facing something inexplicable. Amy couldn't take it anymore. She turned and ran, not daring to look back. Each step seemed like something was pulling her back. When she finally left the school, she didn't stop until she was home. However, she knew her investigation wasn't over, and perhaps she would have to return again. After the terrifying night at the school, Amy decided to continue her investigation, even though fear had begun to sink deep into her mind. She realized that everything she once thought was normal had now been turned upside down. The memories of Mark, Thomas, and the strange secrets beneath the school left her restless. A week later, Amy met Tom again. They sat and talked in a small cafe, and this time, Amy couldn't hold her patience. "Tom, I need to know more about what happened to Mark. He wasn't the only one who went missing. Was he? Tom was silent for a moment, as if thinking about something. Then he sighed and said, "Yes, Mark wasn't the only one. A few years ago, a group of other students also went missing in the school. They said they saw a ghost in a forbidden room in the school, but no one dared to speak the truth." After hearing this, a chill swept over Amy's body. What Tom said felt like a warning. But what was more important was, why was no one speaking the truth? Why was everyone silent when such strange disappearances had occurred? "Do you know where that forbidden room is?" Amy asked, her voice tense. Tom looked at her, his eyes hesitant. But finally, he nodded. "I know, but I don't want to take you there." That's where all the horror began. Another night, Amy and Tom decided to return to the school. This time, they were better prepared, with flashlights and some essential tools for the investigation. But fear still lurked in Amy's mind. She didn't know what they would encounter, but she felt like something was waiting for her in the dark. They approached the old hallway area that Amy had explored before. Both of them began searching around the area, but nothing seemed unusual. Tom led Amy to an old window, where he indicated that the forbidden room was behind it. Amy felt her footsteps growing heavier, and the air around her began to feel suffocating. As they approached the door, a strange noise echoed from behind it. The sound resembled breathing, the movement of someone shifting in the dark. Amy turned to look at Tom, and then they both stared at each other in fear. Tom took a deep breath and opened the door. Inside was a dimly lit room, with walls covered in moss and dust. The room was empty, but something strange was hanging in the air. Amy felt as though an invisible force was pulling her deeper inside. Both of them stepped into the room. Suddenly, the door slammed shut behind them. The air in the room changed instantly, becoming cold and heavy. Amy felt the presence of something beyond imagination, and a giggling sound echoed from the darkness. When the door slammed shut, the space in the room became eerily silent, and a suffocating sensation enveloped both of them. Amy and Tom stood frozen, unable to move, as if the darkness in the room had locked them in. A sudden cold breeze swept around them. Amy felt an invisible force engulfing the room. A faint giggle echoed in the dark space, making her feel as though she was facing a power far beyond what she had ever imagined. Suddenly, a strange light appeared from the corner of the room. The light gradually grew brighter, and Amy realized it wasn't ordinary light. It was coming from an ancient painting hidden in the darkness. A painting Amy had never seen before. The image in the painting depicted a student with a face that looked eerily like Mark's. "Wow. What is this?" Amy gasped, her voice trembling. Tom looked at the painting, and his expression turned cold. "That's the painting of the lost student. We've been trapped in this time loop, where the souls cannot move on." She began to realize that Elmwood High wasn't just a school. It was a trap, a place where missing students were caught in an endless time loop. The painting was the eternal prison of forgotten souls. Mark, Thomas, and the other students had been dragged here, becoming part of a story that would never end. "We can't escape," Tom said, his voice now filled with sorrow. "Each of us is a part of the past. We can't leave, and we can't free the other souls. But Amy wouldn't accept that. She was determined not to let herself and Mark be trapped forever in this loop. If we can't escape, I'll break the loop, she said, her eyes shining with resolve. With all her remaining strength, Amy charged toward the painting, tearing the fabric with her hands. A chilling sensation and the presence of waiting souls surrounded her. Suddenly, a scream echoed from within the painting, as if all the souls were simultaneously escaping. As the painting tore apart, all the souls trapped inside were freed. The ghosts of the old students appeared and then slowly vanished into the misty space. Amy and Tom stood there, watching everything around them collapse, and the door to the room opened. Amy looked outside the door, where the light from the outside world poured in, bringing hope and freedom. She and Tom left the room, stepping out of the darkness of Elmwood. Although they had freed the souls, Amy knew that the truth about Elmwood would forever haunt her. Crestwood High School was located in a quiet suburban area, where people rarely paid attention to each other. However, there was one strange thing about Crestwood that no one could explain: the mysterious disappearances that no one dared to talk about. The students who went missing left no trace, as if they vanished in an instant. Emily, a 11th grade student, was an energetic, cheerful, and social girl. She often chatted with her friends during breaks. And today, like every other time, she stood outside the schoolyard, watching everyone play. However, there was something different today. The air seemed thick, and there was a strange feeling that enveloped the space. Emily couldn't explain it, but she felt like something was wrong. When the bell signaling the end of break rang, the students scattered back to their classrooms, but Emily noticed a familiar figure, Jason, her classmate, hadn't returned. Jason was a new student who had transferred to Crestwood from a big city, and he didn't talk much about his past. Jason always had a rather odd style, rarely blending in with the group. But Emily didn't think he would be the next one to disappear. Rushing through the hallway to find Jason, Emily found her friends. "Have you seen Jason?" she asked, her voice full of concern. "I haven't seen him either," one friend replied. "Maybe he stepped outside for a bit." However, Emily didn't feel at ease. She kept searching everywhere around the school, but Jason was still nowhere to be found. The feeling of unease grew stronger, and as she approached the classroom window, her eyes locked onto a strange figure standing near the school gates, staring directly at her. "Who is that?" Emily wondered to herself. But when she looked again, the figure was gone. A chill ran down her spine as she felt that something very unusual was happening. She decided to search for Jason once more, but this time, she felt like something was watching her. Emily couldn't stop herself. She decided not to return to class, but to continue searching for Jason. She walked down the hallway, feeling as though something was pulling her into a place within the school that she had never explored. The darkness in the school seemed denser. The silent walls, as if they held secrets she had never known. She reached an old part of the school, a place where few students ever went. It was an area that Emily rarely ventured into, as it was quite deserted and old. As she passed a door, she suddenly heard a faint noise from behind. She turned around but saw no one. The feeling of unease grew in Emily, but she decided to keep moving forward. Suddenly, she saw a figure standing at the end of the hallway. The figure wasn't moving, just standing still as if waiting for someone. The faint light from the lamps illuminated the figure's blurry face, but Emily couldn't recognize who it was. Emily swallowed hard and walked towards the figure. She tried to stay calm, but the closer she got, the more the figure seemed to fade away. Suddenly, a door opened right beside her, startling her. Inside was a cold, pitch-black space, like an abandoned room. She couldn't resist the feeling of curiosity and decided to step into the room. As she entered, a cold breeze swept through, and she realized she was standing in an abandoned classroom. The room had cracked walls and desks covered in dust. Emily ventured deeper into the room, and she saw a forgotten whiteboard with faint markings on it. Suddenly, she heard a soft breath behind her. She turned around, and this time, she saw another figure standing right next to the doorway. Emily couldn't take it anymore. She turned and ran out of the classroom, but as soon as she stepped out, the figure followed her. She could feel their presence, even though she couldn't clearly see their face. She ran back to her room, gasping for breath from the fear. The feeling of being chased haunted her mind. But when she looked out the window, another figure appeared in the schoolyard, staring directly at her. This time, she recognized it was Jason. "Jason, are you okay?" Emily whispered, unable to believe her eyes. But when she turned back to look, the figure was gone. She felt like she was living in a nightmare with no escape. Emily couldn't go on like this. She decided to go to the library, where there might be documents about the history of Crestwood. She knew there was something strange about this school, and only by uncovering the truth could she free herself and Jason. Searching through old books and documents in the library, Emily discovered an old notebook with strange notes about the students who had gone missing before. She found out that all of them vanished at strange times, and there was a connection between those disappearances. Emily couldn't bear the sense of anxiety and unease any longer. She decided to keep searching for clues to unravel the strange events at Crestwood High. The notebook she found in the library was filled with notes about students who had gone missing many years ago. She felt like she was standing before a door that, if opened, would reveal a terrifying truth. In the notebook, there was a recurring story about an abandoned classroom, where the missing students were almost always last seen. This room was called Room 13, and anyone who entered it never returned. Emily's heart began to race. This was the very room she had accidentally found when she ventured into the school that night. Emily knew she had to return to Room 13 to uncover the truth. She began preparing, bringing a flashlight and a notebook to jot down important findings. This time, she couldn't turn back, for she had made up her mind to figure out what was happening to the missing students. This time, Emily didn't go alone. She decided to call Tom, her only close friend, although Tom didn't fully understand everything. He also sensed that something was wrong with Crestwood. When Emily told Tom about Room 13, he agreed to help her investigate. As both of them approached the area of Room 13, Emily felt an unusual chill. She could hear faint breathing, as if someone were standing nearby. The classroom door opened before them, but there was no one inside. Everything was eerily silent. Emily and Tom stepped into Room 13, the air thick and cold. The room had been abandoned for years, with old desks and decaying walls. But as Emily looked closely, she noticed something strange. There were fresh marks on the floor, as if someone had just walked through. She knelt down and touched the marks on the floor. Suddenly, a hidden door behind a layer of dust creaked open, revealing a staircase leading down into the ground. Emily and Tom exchanged glances, feeling like they were about to uncover a major secret. They descended the stairs, the cold sensation spreading through their bodies. The deeper they went, the more oppressive and mysterious the air became. At the bottom of the stairs, they discovered a large room with old beds and abandoned furniture. But what was strange was that the walls were covered with bizarre drawings. Emily moved closer to one of the drawings on the wall. It depicted students, all with blurry faces and drawn in a state of fear. Suddenly, she realized that one of the figures was Jason's face. She felt her body tremble with fear. She looked back at Tom, and they both realized a terrifying truth. This room wasn't just where the missing students were kept, but where they were pulled into, trapped in a space between the real and the unreal, an endless loop. Emily and Tom stood in the dark room, staring at the strange drawings on the walls, with the feeling that something was watching them. Suddenly, a soft sound echoed from behind them, making them turn. A hidden door in the corner of the room opened, leading to a narrow, dark hallway. Emily couldn't bear the feeling of fear any longer. She and Tom stepped into the hallway, with each step making the space feel even heavier. Strange noises echoed from everywhere, as if they were entering a place where they were never meant to be. They passed through a series of old, faded doors until they reached another room. This room had a large table, with a pile of books and documents scattered around. One particular book caught Emily's attention, The History of Crestwood. She quickly opened it and began reading. As she flipped through the first few pages, Emily discovered a strange story. A group of students had gone missing in the 1960s, and similar events had happened after that. She found Jason's name in this book, and what terrified her more was that the records showed he had gone missing on the exact same day as yesterday. "This can't be," Emily whispered, her confusion growing. "Jason can't be the next. This has happened before." She turned to look at Tom, but he was silent, staring at the old documents on the table. They both decided not to waste any more time. She and Tom continued searching for documents related to the missing students. Suddenly, they found a diary hidden in an old drawer. The diary belonged to a student named Mark, who went missing in 1975, a year when Crestwood faced strange events. Emily opened the diary and began reading the first pages. Mark wrote about the strange feelings he had in the school. He sensed the presence of some force watching the students, especially those who had just transferred. Gradually, Mark began to believe that the disappearances were caused by an ancient curse of Crestwood. He wrote about Room 13 and how every missing student was connected to that room. It felt like Mark was passing on a warning through every word. "Room 13 is where everything begins," Mark had written. "If anyone enters it, they will never return, because it is the place that traps the souls of students who cannot move on." Emily felt everything around her collapse. "We have to go there right now," Emily said. with clear determination in her eyes. Tom didn't say anything, but he nodded, knowing that they only had one path left: face the trapped souls and find a way to break Crestwood's curse. Emily and Tom decided to enter room 13, where all the disappearances and secrets of Crestwood began. As they stood before the door, both of them felt a sudden cold breeze, as if an invisible force was preventing them from entering. "I don't know if we can do this," Tom whispered. Emily looked at him, a determined look in her eyes. "We have to go in. There's no other choice." They held hands and opened the door. As the door opened, they found themselves stepping into a strange space, almost like a vast room with no exit. The walls ahead were covered with bizarre drawings and symbols. A faint whispering sound began to echo from everywhere in the room, making them feel surrounded by an invisible force. Emily stepped closer to the wall where the drawings were made, and she realized that these were not ordinary drawings. They depicted scenes of the missing students, all with fearful faces. She felt a chill run down her spine as she realized that these images were like warnings. Suddenly, a faint giggle echoed from the corner of the room, startling both of them. A figure emerged from the dark space, slowly walking toward them. It was a ghost, a student who had gone missing long ago. Emily and Tom could feel its presence, and they knew they were facing something beyond their imagination. The ghost stood before them, looking into Emily and Tom's eyes. "You cannot stop now," the ghost said in a soft but powerful voice. "We have been trapped here for so long, and only you can free us." Emily felt her heart pounding. "How can we free you?" she asked, her voice filled with worry. The ghost replied, "You must tear this drawing apart and break the connection between us and room 13. Emily stepped toward the drawing and began tearing it apart, piece by piece. As she did so, the entire room began to shake, as if an invisible force was leaving. The giggling and the breathing sounds gradually stopped. The ghosts began to slowly fade away, freed from room 13. When the last piece of the drawing was torn apart, a powerful burst of light erupted, and the room seemed to be erased from this world. Emily and Tom stood amidst the emptiness, feeling an eerie silence envelop them. As everything settled down, Emily and Tom felt like they had just gone through an unimaginable journey. The ghosts had been freed, and the secrets of Crestwood had finally been revealed. But more importantly, they had broken the curse, freeing not only the trapped souls, but themselves as well. As they left the school, both of them felt that their lives would never be the same. They had solved a deep and terrifying mystery, but they also realized that there were things in this world that could never be explained. "Crestwood will always haunt us," Emily said, her eyes gazing at the school as it slowly faded from view. "But we freed the souls, and that's the most important thing."